So I continue further back behind Union lines, and then I find the signal station.
Come up with a method using flags to communicate to different signal parties. Okay? Now, with these flags, they use three different sizes. They use a 6-foot, 4-foot, and a 2-foot. Okay? Anybody know why there was different sizes? And exactly. See them better at a further distance. The further away they were, the bigger the flag they had. Okay, now you see the little one, that was called an action flag. And what they would do is use it during battle time, because if they needed supplies or something, they actually lie down on the ground and use that flag. Why do you think they lay down on the ground with that flag? Right, so they wouldn't get shot. They wouldn't shoot. That was called the action flag. Now you see, there's two different colors, okay? You see the black one, you see the red one. Anybody want to take a guess at why the different colors? White one, see how well you can see that white one with the dark trees behind it? That's what it was used for, with a darker background. Now, they use flags in the daytime, they use torches at nighttime. Okay, this is called night signals, which this is the flying torch, and that's the foot torch. And they had a special fuel that they used for inside these torches so that they could see them at a very long distance. You want to take a guess at what the fuel was? No, not powder. No, not gasoline. Turpentine. Turpentine, because it made a real bright yellow flame. And they signaled, just like they did with the flags, but they would use this flying torch and this other foot torch to line up with somebody. Because say I'm signaling to this man here, he can see it straight up and down. But to you that's over here, say you're in the signal party, you would see this torch and this torch at an angle, two separate torches. But if I'm going to signal to you see what I mean? Now both torches are straight up and down. Okay, it'd be an angle to this man here. Okay? Now, what they use a system called wigwag with the flag. Okay? And what they would do is they use numbers for their position. And what they do is they'd use a number 1 to the left, which would be your right. Okay, then they use a number 2, which was to the right, your left, and then they'd use a number 3. Okay, so straightforward. Those 1s and 2s were put together for the letters, or what we call pre-concerted code, which is like a shorthand. Instead of spelling the whole message out, they would do their pre-concerted code and just send 1 or 2 words at a time. Okay, now what we're going to do here, real quick, anybody want to be a flagger? Okay, right there, right here. We'll get over here. We'll get another way. Okay. Don't want you too close together. They're going to send you, this signal party is going to send you a message. Okay. And it's going to be on that board. It's either going to be 1 word, possibly 1 word, it might be 2, okay? Now, whenever they signal you, they're going to want your attention, okay? Everybody's at the ready position, like this young lady right here, at the ready position. Now, when they wigwag you, they're going to go back and forth. Okay? Now, as soon as you see them do that, you answer them, because they are going to continue to do that until all 4 of you answer. And then they'll send a message. Now, when they send that message, it's going to be either 1, 2, or 3. Okay? Now, the rest of you that's behind the flaggers should call out the number whenever they send it. But you guys behind, pay attention to those numbers, because you're the ones that's supposed to break that code. Let me see what they have just sent you. Okay, you got that? Okay, I'll help you along I'll help you a little bit, but I'm not gonna hopefully give it away to you. Okay? All right. Okay, they want your attention, they're getting your attention. So you respond back, wag back. They're gonna do that to all 4 of you answer. Okay? Now, come to the ready, they have stopped. Okay, get ready. They're gonna send that message to you. Okay? Okay, you hold on. Okay. Did you get what that word was? Anybody know what it was? Retreat? Okay, now, go ahead. Fire? That was it. Very good. Very good. Okay, now, since you know what that was, they said fire, and probably what they did is the headquarters sent that to the artillery to fire the artillery. You understood that message. So what you're going to do is send them a message back that you understood, okay? So what we're going to do is you guys with the flag get their attention. How did you get their attention? Back and forth, okay? Everybody back and forth, okay? Once they respond, are they responding? Are they going back and forth too? Then you stop and come to the ready, okay? Now, they know you're going to send them a message. And what you're going to send them is, get your flag straight up. You're going to sit, now I'm going to point to which way you take that flag, okay? 1, 1, go that way. 1, 1, pause. 1, 1, okay? Pause. 1, 1. Pause. 3, 3, 3. Okay, straight ahead. And what you just told them, we received your message, we understood it, nothing further, you're done. That's it. Okay. Yes? Okay, okay. Good, good, very good. Okay, that's it. I thank you. Any questions?
Here we say,
Okay.
guys.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you.
So over here, I meet another Star of the Union under the name of Ulysses S. Grant.
So, when did you join the military?
Well, I went to West Point Military Academy when I was 17 in 1839 and became an officer 4 years later, class of 1843. And I was posted at the Jefferson Barracks in Missouri near St. Louis. And I was an officer then serving when the Mexican War started. And I served through until 1854 and I resigned that summer. And I was out of the Army from 1854 through 1861 when the war started.
And when did you become general?
May of 1861.
So you were general very early on.
Yeah, not right away though. I asked to come into the war. I asked for the War Department to reinstate me and make me a colonel. And there was no answer from the War Department. So in Illinois, where I was living, the governor appointed me as a colonel of volunteers. And I trained 3 regiments, and then I was given command of the 3rd one as a colonel. And within a month's time, the president had granted the governors to promote people to general. So the governor of Illinois was allowed to promote 5, and I was the senior colonel because of my prior military experience that made me eligible to be promoted to brigadier general with 1 star.
Cool. So, what battles were you involved in?
At first, the first battle was Belmont in Missouri, and there was some action around eastern Tennessee. And the first action where I was commanding more than just a brigade of troops was at Fort Donelson and Fort Henry on the Tennessee River. And those were the first 2 victories where I get an unconditional surrender from the Confederates.
And that's how you got your nickname, Unconditional Surrender Grants.
Right, and I didn't plan that. The newspapers decided to do that.
Yeah.
That's where they also wrote about me directing the battle with a cigar in my hand, because until that point I was a pipe smoker. So people after the battle, happy that I won a battle since the Eastern armies aren't winning, saw the article and decided to send me boxes of cigars as gifts of congratulations, and also little notes inside saying that if you use cigars to win, maybe you will win the war a lot faster. So I kept getting cigars all through the war, boxes and boxes every day.
So usually when you went to the battle, what sort of gear would you carry on you?
Just what I'm wearing now.
Really? Like no weapons?
I don't carry any weapons. My first battle I did, and the first day of the Wilderness Campaign in '64, I wore my sword and my sash. And that's because it was my first day among the Eastern soldiers, and I wanted to be clear to them who I was and who was in charge. But other than that, I usually keep a cavalry bugler with me who has a pistol and a carbine and a sword. And that's the closest person around me that has a weapon. And then my staff officers all carry swords and pistols, but I don't ever. Sometimes I don't wear my spurs when I ride.
Very interesting.
I have them on today.
Yeah, I was over with those rebels over there, and they said that Lee always carries a pistol with him.
I believe it.
Yeah, I would say.
But that's his prerogative.
Yeah.
As top general, I have the choice to decide how I want to dress and what I feel is necessary.
Exactly.
And I'm very busy with planning. I'm very busy with visiting with the commands, and I'm away from the front, so it's not necessary for me to have a weapon. And troops have a tendency to get around me. If I'm up at the front, they don't want me hurt, so they're trying to either push me back or they somehow protect me anyway.
Interesting. Thank you for your presentation.
And over here, I get a demonstration from a Union sharpshooter. Very cool.
Since for the equipment that I have and the uniform that I have, it's different than the regular infantry units. As you've been around, you've looked at the regular infantry units. What you'll see is that they have blue sack coats. They have light blue trousers. My uniform is green. That's because green is a rifleman's color. European military fashion from the 18th century forward always designated this color of green as a rifleman's color. Starting with the Prussian Jaegers, who were riflemen in the 7 Years' War, on to the British 95th Rifles in the Napoleonic War, and right up to the 1st and 2nd Regiments of the United States Sharpshooters, of which I am a member of the 2nd Regiment, Company C. The units were founded by Hiram Berdan. Hiram Berdan was a wealthy, competitive shooter, and he was also an inventor. Competitive shooters were the rock stars of the day in the Civil War, because they were sort of like Olympic athletes. Everybody admired them, and he was quite a celebrity. So he was given the charge from the government to recruit 2 regiments of competitive marksmen, because they thought it would give the Union Army an advantage to have all those riflemen deployed for the Union Army. If you look at my uniform, that hunter green also has some other things that are different along with just the color. The leggings that I have on are leather leggings that were designed by Colonel Berdan, because he wanted to keep the trousers from being shredded as his troops moved through the woods. The mission of the sharpshooters is essentially to go out, find the enemy, scout for the enemy, and to keep them from finding your unit. And essentially to do that, sometimes you would have to take on a much larger group to delay them from finding your unit. And so that's why the sharpshooters' ability to get through woods without getting their uniforms shredded and essentially ruined was part of his thinking. These leggings, though, weren't very effective because the troops didn't like them. It took about a day for them to put them on, figure out how to get them on quickly, about a day for them to go through and figure out that they were sort of hot and uncomfortable, and another day for them to finally decide to cut them off. So we call them 3-day leggings. So the other thing is for the sharpshooters, is Colonel Badan was ahead of his time in other areas as well. This is a sharpshooter backpack. Nowadays, all backpacks have waist belts, and most of the weight is borne by the waist belt. Colonel Badan designed this. This was produced by the Tiffany Company in New York. And for the ladies, you probably recognize Tiffany being a jeweler, right? Well, they are now. Back then, they worked on government contracts for the Union Army. This set of brass clips to your equipment belt if you're a soldier, and basically helps bear the load for this backpack. Behind this leather flap is a leather and wood torso adjustment system. If you look at these tie-ons and everything else, what this means is I can take my blanket and my gum blanket, so there's a regular blanket inside what is a rubberized piece of canvas called a gum blanket, and I can attach it to my pack and I can take it on and off without having to open the pack. Also, Colonel Badan issued a mess kit, and if you look at the regular units here, the regular infantry units, they had probably a tin cup. That's all they got from the Army. They had to steal or buy everything else that they had. So a couple good things there. The one thing that he did that was to his everlasting credit is he finally was able to talk the government into supplying the Sharps Badan rifle. The Sharps Badan rifle was created in 1859. It is a breech loading weapon. And if you guys have been around here to most of the other units here, they have muzzle loading weapons. The breech loading weapon allows you to put a round in at the breech end, close it, clip off the tail of a cartridge, cap it, and fire. Whereas I think you guys have seen the regular units have 9 steps involved in firing, fire upon command. The other thing with the sharpshooters is we really weren't involved in a lot of the close order tactics you see, where the regular infantry is elbow to elbow, having to fire with those 9 steps, because we usually took 5-yard intervals, and we'd have teams of 2 men each in a 4-man total team, and we would one group would cover for the other as the other group maneuvered. So it was the advent of fire and maneuver tactics for the Army. This rifle is unique. It is a sniper's weapon. There's the rear sight is graduated at 800 yards, so you can reach out and touch something at 800 yards. This trigger here is called a set trigger. What happens is, if I pull this back, nothing happens. This is a hair trigger. When I touch that, slightly touch it, it goes off. When you have trigger work like that, it makes it easier to have a hard hold and to keep the rifle steady as you're aiming at a great distance. I can reach out and touch something and hit it at 800 yards, which is 8 football fields. As you guys know, this football field out here is 100 yards. As you look at this, also, this gives you the capability of loading while you're in a prone position. And as a sniper, that's pretty handy to have, because you can hide in tall grass or in bushes or something along those lines and ambush people as they approach you. So, as you look at the rest of the display here, this is an ordnance display for a gentleman I'm watching this display for who's gone to lunch. But you'll notice that there's also, if you look at the action of my rifle, there's a carbine version, which is right here. The Sharp carbine was one of the most popular arms that was issued to Union cavalry during the Civil War, simply because it was a breech loading arm, and it could be loaded and fired from horseback. As you might imagine, trying to jam a round down a muzzle loader with a ramrod while you're on a horse is probably pretty difficult. Okay. The rest of these rifles, as you look at them, have various sources and came about in different parts of the war. For instance, as you look at the different rifles, you'll see rifles that were early war rifles versus late war rifles. You also see a coach gun here, which is a double-barreled shotgun. That probably would have been used more by Confederate cavalry as opposed to the Union Army. Those were never issued to the Union Army. They would be a device that somebody would bring from home and hope to use in maybe a cavalry exchange of some sort. The rest of these will be infantry rifles. As you go through and you look at them, you know, what you have as you roll through is you start out with, at the beginning of the war, the M1842 Springfield musket. This was used, you know, at the beginning of the war. It was a smooth bore. Some of them that were in service were still smooth bores and reissued to Civil War volunteer units by state, because they were in the state arsenals. The ones that were still in the federal arsenal were rebored and also rifled. But early in the war, the government used smooth bores until they ran out, and then they issued a cartridge called a buck and ball cartridge. It was a 69 caliber ball with three 31 caliber buckshot. As you roll through and look at the rest of these, some of them are government rifles, some of them have been bought from overseas, because they just literally could not find enough rifles to equip all the troops that showed up for the Civil War. This is an 1861 Springfield. There are a couple Enfields here that have been imported from Britain. This rifle right here is a copy of an M1842 that was actually produced by the Confederacy. This is an original Confederate rifle right there. So hopefully that, as you look at the muzzle loading technology, what's happening there is you have a 58 caliber Minet ball, which is sort of a conical shaped bullet whose skirt expands as the gas in the barrel pushes it out the barrel and grabs the rifle. That allows more accurate firearms. With rifling, troops could reach out as far as I could, but they don't have the sighting system to be able to do it effectively. I do. But what happened is Civil War tactics started out at the beginning of the war using the same tactics used in the Mexican War, which were the same tactics Napoleon used or George Washington used, which is you got a bunch of troops, and the primary weapon was what's on the end of that rifle, a bayonet. And what you tried to do is create a formation which could cross an open area and attack the other side and stick that bayonet in their enemy. The reason that was the main tactic is because muzzle loading smooth bore muskets that were flintlock in nature were so slow to load that basically the opposing side could get off maybe one, maybe two volleys to keep you from attacking them with that bayonet. But for the most part, since they were only accurate to 80 yards, if you got hit by one of the balls, it was probably more bad luck than anything else. During the Civil War, the rifled musket changed everything because you could reach out and hit those people before they even got into formation. So it was very difficult for them to form up and attack you, number one. Number two, as they came on, you could reduce their numbers pretty dramatically with the long range of these rifled muskets. Whereas before, with the smooth bore flintlock, what would take place is the ball would bounce up and down in the barrel, be very, very inaccurate. And if you only got one volley or perhaps two at most off against the opposing side trying to attack you with a bayonet, they would arrive at your location and stick the bayonet into you unless you ran. So a lot of those engagements were decided by the side that ran first. So, did I answer your questions basically? Does that help you?
Yes, that helped me a lot.
No problem.
It's actually pretty interesting to see how this stuff all works and how technology advanced so quickly.
Would you like me to fire this for you?
Sure.
All right. As you look at normal infantry equipment, what you're looking at is a cartridge box and a cap box and a bayonet on an equipment belt. The difference between the sharpshooters and regular infantry is I have a larger box, which I carry on my hip. I don't have a cross belt with a big brass emblem on it, simply because the sharpshooters believed that was an aiming stake that would simply help the enemy draw a bead on their heart, so they didn't use them. They just put they had boxes that went only on the belt. Now as I go through and load, this piece loads very, very differently than a muzzle load. I'm going to pull a cartridge from my box. I'm going to put it in the rear of the piece. I'm going to clip off a paper tail on the cartridge. The piece is now loaded but not capped. I'm going to go to a half-cock position. A half-cock position is a safety position. What takes place in muskets from the 18th century onward is you have this safety position where it's almost impossible to push the hammer, which used to have flint in the older days, and now in the Civil War has, is supposed to strike this percussion cap to provide the ignition source for the gunpowder. So when you hear the phrase "don't go off half-cocked," what that means is that you don't have everything ready yet. And so and that phrase comes to you from the Civil War. As you go through and you look at this hair trigger that I talked to you about, and I showed you how that's so easy to pull, and once you do the set trigger is now on, and the hair trigger will just take a light touch to fire the piece. When someone says you have a hair trigger temper, that means that oh my gosh, you get mad at the slightest touch. And so that also is a phrase that came to you from the Civil War. Now, I'm ready to go. All I have to do, point and shoot. So, did you get everything you needed?
Yep. Thank you for your presentation.
Okay, so that's the end of part 2, and also the next part, which is Lincoln's speech. It isn't really required to fully understand this video, so I guess I'm just going to throw you to the credits.